Begin your journey in the lands between on solid ground. But how exactly do you conquer the game? Hey, this is Moshi, and we'd like to welcome you into the world of gaming. Please subscribe to the channel and enable notifications to be notified of new uploads. Now, let's get started. Elden Ring introduced players to a new area in which they can explore, gather goods, uncover secrets, and of course, face formidable bosses. Elden Ring appears to be pulling together the finest of From Software's greatest. The game draws on mechanics from previous titles, particularly Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and putting them in open-world setting based on our observations. It could even be one of best Xbox RPGs available, depending on how things turn out. We've got you covered, whether you're a veteran of previous From Software titles or a beginner anxious to experience what all the fuss is about. Here are the Elden Ring tips and tricks you should know based on our experience with this game thus far. The first piece of advice we have is to pick and choose your battles. Up until now, Soulsborne games have pushed you into direct combat with adversaries. But that isn't the case here. While this always isn't the case, there are many creatures and enemy goons in Elden Ring that you can avoid fighting, such as the bandit camp at the Stormgate's base. That's not to suggest you shouldn't fight them. There's typically a reason to do so, whether it's a chest or an item that players can use, or just the runes received by killing them. As a result, weigh the benefits and drawbacks of each encounter, not just the difficulty, but also the hazards. If you have a lot of runes, you might wish to slink past the opponents or even return to a site of grace to use them. The game's first monster, a roving boss known as the Tree Sentinel, epitomizes duality, as he is extremely difficult to defeat, but extremely easy to avoid. The next piece of advice is to use stealth and scouting as approaches. Elden Ring goes above and beyond in terms of giving you alternatives for surveying its battlegrounds. Outside of dungeons, verticality and freedom of exploration are more important, which means you can circle an area, check out the adversaries, get around them, or use the terrain to your advantage. The other factor is, of course, stealth. Except for Sekiro, this concept did exist in prior From Software games, although it was usually quite rudimentary. Coming up behind enemies was for high damage backstab is a good technique to take out opponents now that the environment design makes it much more viable. Even if it escalates to a full-fledged brawl, you can clear out a large number of them ahead of time. Another tip is to always follow the golden trails to locate useful spots and go quickly. The game says it early on, but it's worth repeating. The ethereal golden streaks that materialize in the air from time to time are always worth following. They lead to sites of grace checkpoints that are often hidden or difficult to find, so look for them if you haven't seen one in a while. You'll construct a robust network of fast travel points as you discover additional sites of grace, so take advantage of them wherever they appear. Hey buddy, you should focus on little goals. It's easy to become overwhelmed by all the possibilities, pathways, and potential, so the best strategy is to choose a small, manageable activity and devote all your attention to it for a short period. Conquer minor objectives to help you progress towards the bigger ones, whether it's defeating a specific adversary, leveling up a certain number, or mastering a specific weapon. Okay, remember where you've been and travel quickly frequently. It's helpful to recall where you've been before in Elden Ring's non-linear universe. You'll probably meet the merchant Calais early in the game, but before you have enough runes to buy anything from him. However, because he's located next to a site of grace, you can return at any moment to explore his wares and purchase items, some of which are borderline critical. Sites of grace include labels on the map screen that identify sites of interest and notable NPCs nearby, allowing you to check what's nearby and worth revisiting. Okay, before we continue, let's get some things straight. Please give this video a thumbs up if you've liked it thus far. Also, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comment section below. Did you know that you can summon someone either online or offline? The advantages of summoning other players are evident, but Elden Ring also allows you to summon numerous types of NPCs and monsters using spirit summons, or the spirit ashes, things that cost FP in exchange for the ability to create allied creatures. Calais will sell you a few to try out. While they aren't always particularly effective, they are extremely handy as distractions. The Lone Wolf Ashes, for example, summon 3 wolves that bite foes while simultaneously drawing their attention. While a boss may not take much damage from them, you may let the wolves aggravate that boss while you stab at them from a safe distance. We observe that doing so can harm a boss to half health. To summon them, you'll need to be near a rebirth monument just like any other summon. The little tablets icon on the left will let you know if you're in range. Remember that dodging is usually preferable to blocking. It's a cliche, but it's usually one that holds up. It's better to roll out of the way of an attack than to catch it on your shield. Shields don't always completely reduce an attack's damage. The physical guard and similar values on the shield reveal what percentage they remove off the top, and even if they do, the stamina cost of having your shield up is a little more difficult to overcome than simply rolling out of the way. That's not to suggest you shouldn't use shields. They may be quite useful, especially if you master the parry skill, but you should use them only to halt attacks you couldn't avoid in the first place, not to rebound every strike. Use caution when using the ashes. They aren't only for decoration. Ashes of War, powerful magic artifacts that can be attached to the equipment to impact it and give it new abilities, are one of the main features of Elden Ring. Although certain classes have ashes already installed on their gear, it's important to note that Ashes of War aren't simply upgrades. They modify skills rather than adding to them, and they increase some attributes while decreasing others. You can use them at sites of grace, but make sure it's all worth it and that the talent you're losing isn't crucial to your survival. For example, most shields can parry strikes, but applying Ashes of War to them may remove this ability and replace it with something else. Even so, it may be worthwhile, particularly if you can increase the item scaling to match your character's finest abilities. Are you aware that healing is frequently a risky endeavor? In Elden Ring, there are a lot of ways to heal, especially if you're a faith-based class, but a lot of them aren't very good. The best way to recuperate is using the Flask of Crimson Tears, but its uses are restricted, and even then, it slows you down and leaves you unprotected. Meanwhile, the healing spells that do exist, such as the Prophet's Initial Heal spell, are frequently slow and require you to sit down and concentrate for a time. If you need to heal, attempt to get some distance between yourself and the threat first. If you try to heal in the middle of combat, you'll almost certainly get splattered for letting your guard down. Another reason summons is useful is that they allow you to bring healing without being interrupted if they grab an enemy's attention. You should fight your adversaries one at a time rather than as a group. Elden Ring, like all Soulsborne games, contain a targeting system that works well when battling a single monster at a time, but gets complicated when there are numerous attackers. That's just one of the challenges. Navigating through a slew of diverse foes is a lot more difficult than dealing with a single adversary head-on. As a result, constantly attempt to put yourself in scenarios where you're facing the fewest number of adversaries possible. Then go through them one by one. If there are a lot of them, take a step back and attempt to keep them all in front of you. If things get messy, get on your horse and depart the area if at all feasible. You can always return later when things have calmed down, especially if you have a lot of runes at stake. Which one of these tricks do you think will work best for you? That concludes today's video. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and switch on notifications so you don't miss any of our entertaining videos. This is Moshi, and we'll see you next time.